Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Douglas Cirqueira, a researcher from Dublin City University, Ireland, and part of the Perform Digital Retail EU project. The goal of our project is to help retailers in entering the digital age and also in overcoming challenges from a wide range of perspectives, such as business models, customer experience, retail operations, digital technology, and big data. Digitalization and resilience in the retail industry during the corona crisis is the topic of our video today. And I'm going to interview my fellow Mr. Gültekin Cakir about the major impact of the crisis on retailers from a strategy and operations point of view. Gültekin is an expert in strategic management and a researcher in Maynooth University in Ireland, and also part of the Perform Digital Retail EU project. So, hi, Gültekin.
Hi, Douglas. So I'm very happy to contribute to this and hopefully we'll answer all your questions. And thanks for your inquiry.
Sure. So, Gültekin, my first question on that topic is, what can you tell about the corona crisis consequences for retailers from a business strategy point of view?
Well, we experience major business disruptions on many levels, and particularly retailers are experiencing drastic changes, and their existing retail strategies are affected heavily by those developments. What I can say is now being resilient in this crisis is the key. It's the key more than ever before, and it's the key to survive actually. So resilient basically means to adapt or recover quickly from disruptions, such like the corona crisis, to bounce back to the original operation activity situation, to maintain the status quo, if you want to say. So if you look closely at current developments, studies and statistics, so we notice a distinctive trend, so which everybody can relate to. Everything is going digital now. So more and more customers are going digital. There's a record of an increase in online shopping adoption by customers, even an increase in retail apps downloads. Online grocery shopping adoption is experiencing tremendous growth, for example. And even when you just visit a physical grocery store, you are encouraged to pay cashless, so a digital payment method. And so generally, digital devices and the internet are now the major interface for any activities, and customers are spending almost their whole free time now in this digital world. So retailers need to understand this now, and the fact that this is a development they need to adapt, and not the other way around. They just can't wait that situation goes back to normal. And it was already the case that customers were adopting more and more digital technologies, so digital services, etc. But now during the crisis, everything is shifting more rapidly and becomes now actually a stress test for the resilience and innovative capacity of retailers. So of course, some retailers might think, yeah, okay, after the corona crisis, everything will go back to the traditional settings. People will now come back to my store. No. It is important to understand that the corona crisis just accelerated an already ongoing trend in the retail sector. So not only retail sector, actually, also the same things we observe in finance sector, healthcare, and other sectors such as in entertainment. So a tremendous amount of sectors are affected heavily by the digitalization. So the retail sector is just in the spotlight now, thanks to the crisis. So the imperative and my message is to go digital. This is and has always been the #1 message for retailers in the last decade. And if you look, those who have realized this, they are now investing more and more in their digital transformation initiatives. They're investing in analytics, hiring data scientists, building up whole digital customer communities, and eco and platform systems around their value chain and value proposition. They're gaining significant competitive advantage to the new paradigm of being new being now a customer-centric, following a data-driven principle to generate relevant data, acquire insights out of that data and formulate actions. So being innovative. However, digital investments, they can also pose a huge risk in this current situation, because retailers now need to decide on the trade-off between investing now in your initiatives to go digital. But however, this investment might be needed on the other side to maintain liquidity, which is stressed because of the losses in your sales. So that's the current major challenge, in my opinion, from a business strategy point of view.
Right. It's also important to think from a practical point of view, right? So what else could be of strategic relevance? So could you think of what retailers could do now from a practical point of view?
Yes, that's a good question. For example, as an example, they should not forget about the social responsibility aspect, for example. In fact, many retailers have recognized the huge opportunity and show responsibility out of their CSR activities. So, for example, they apply retention schemes for their workforce, donations, in-kind supports. For example, the Body Shop. They're donating care packages to local hospitals and other products, cleansing items, things of that nature. And you see, those are things which are really needed, and it doesn't just demonstrate window dressing. So they don't just want to look good; they're actually contributing to the crisis. Also, H&M started in initiatives. They're actually providing hospitals with protective equipment. So in that respect, it is now crucial to listen to your customers, engage more, communicate, drive conversation on your channels, maintain and build up trust. These are things which you can do now. Show sense of responsibility, etc. This is very dynamic and very important, very critical now. Because why is that interesting? Because customers, they will remember that, they will thank you with loyalty, and on the long-term perspective, those small successful initiatives will also have a positive impact on your branding and, of course, on your image.
Sure, very insightful answer, actually. So what would you say regarding your thoughts for retail operations, actually? So how is a retailer affected on that level?
Yes, so if you look at operations in general, but for example, the supply chain activities in particular, we experience that, as I said before, it's not about efficiency optimization anymore. It's all that got all disrupted now. It's more about flexibility and your ability to adapt because of the current situation. So those retailers who possess a resilient capability, so the ability to be responsive towards those disruption in their supply chain, for example, and recover quickly, are those who can still maintain their operations going on and are at lower risk for losses, etc. So because almost any retailer is struggling with the supply chain, the effectiveness of the supply chain currently. So that is a major pain point. And this is induced, as we know, by quarantine measures and closed border rules, etc., travel restrictions. They're all affecting company-wide or international-wide supply chains, and also logistics in general. And the consequences, like, for example, when we look at big fashion players such as TK Maxx or Next, they were even forced to close their online channels. They don't operate their web shop anymore because they are not able to maintain operation in distribution, warehousing. So in general, the fulfillment process, they're not maintaining it effectively, man. So because because they can't maintain to let the workforce operate in those warehouses, etc. anymore, because they need to make sure that the workforce is safe now. That's the number one principle. So this is like not a resilient enough of a measure. Another aspect in retail operations is, of course, what we observe on the other side, the customer side, the demand side. And we, the unusual and unforeseeable consumer behaviors, such as, hoarding, this panic buying, stockpiling, increased demand of particular goods. If you think of toilet paper, for example, this challenges existing inventory management systems, forecasting systems, and assortment optimization activity, because this is a surprising and disrupting event. And also, when you think of basket sizes, they're getting bigger, and all these current practices in operations are challenged heavily. So my message is, again, so those retailers who actually utilize actually able to leverage out of better and precise insights in all of their supply chain ecosystem. So if you apply those means, you will gain a better and complete picture of your operations processes and thus better predict critical incidents. Analyze effectiveness of your recovery actions, your countermeasures, evaluate scenarios, and you will be able to, as a consequence, to restore your operations and supply chain far more quickly than without analytics support. So the digital technologies has a huge contribution in this. So another aspect is, of course, the general diversification approach in supply chain. For example, if you have like a wide range of many suppliers, this ensures flexibility. So if half of them are not able to deliver your goods, so you just stick to the other one. So that's one approach. The other approach is, which is also observed a lot, you have just a small amount of suppliers, but you have a good relationship to them. And a good relationship means they're on board in this crisis. And if you have support from your partners, you have much more opportunities, and you engage more into this problem, and you try to solve it together. And another aspect is, of course, the having a resilient mindset in your team, in your workforce. This is very important. For example, if you empower individuals through quick decision making, they can drive, they can decide much faster than compared to other hierarchical models. You need to maintain continuous communication, of course, and you need to drive this resilient mindsets also through your values in your company. And this all will increase your flexibility, and at the end, not only your performance, but also your ability to bounce back to your normal operations in this crisis.
Absolutely, Gültekin. But I think it's also important to think of the small and medium enterprises, right? So what can local and small business do in this crisis? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, the most significant consequence for local shops and SMEs are, of course, the dramatic losses in sales. So liquidity is stressed substantially when shops are closed, and no or just marginal revenue is generated, because small businesses are affected heavier by market fluctuations compared to larger players, because the sources of revenue, they are limited. They have not much reserve assets or resources. Many retailers, they don't even make use of an online channel. And on top of that, small shops, they are much more exposed to the risk of losing their workforce, not able to pay loans, etc. And so I would advise to seek the governmental support as the first place. So of course, get informed about what's available out there. Governmental support such as things like coronavirus funds, things out of stimulus packages from the government, any other funding initiatives which can help you in taxation or other schemes like debt reliefs, things like that, other supporting models. And of course, it is also important to track the developments and follow the trends to be prepared. And but my message now is also even those small and medium-sized retailers, they need to consider going digital now, if not already done so, because SMEs, they need to understand that going to digital is not a one-time everything package which they could apply overnight, for example. No, it's a complex process. It needs to be done step by step, gradually, as adoption takes time through learning, and there are iterative processes. Changes on your systems and processes and structure and people, your whole culture needs to adapt to this new approach and principle. But all these small steps are already a win towards the right direction when done correctly. So as a first step, a local shop, they could just go digital by simply introducing their own web shop, reaching to a wider and, most important, to a digital audience with that. A next step might be developing an app and connect it to your web shop. And if you think further, it's not far away when you also can connect to your app, your web shop, and your physical store to increase the customer experience. So also, it is very important to realize that it's not difficult to reach to your local startup community. There are a lot of tech providers, tech companies waiting for them to help them. They have a lot of innovative solutions to help them. They will be glad to help you. And not only startup communities, research communities, research universities, research institutions such as the universities. So especially in the current crisis. So for example, we at PERFORM or at the Innovation Valley Institute in Maynooth, we are working together in joint projects with retailers and technology providers. And we tackle diverse challenges, many perspectives in this regard. Just like that, just approach to universities and startup communities.
Definitely, Gültekin, very good points on that. So to finalize, what would be the key messages for retailers facing the corona crisis?
Yeah, so from my point of view, so number one message would be, so I highly advise to go digital. So it is the right moment to do so. Make use of the perks of digital technologies, such as data analytics. Inform yourself better. Get the whole picture of what's going on in your company. Act accordingly, and uncover, your bottlenecks and pain points. But importantly, also uncover opportunities. So you might be more innovative when you find out new patterns out of your data, for example, related to your consumers. And up to the point that you may be able to develop unique solutions, which can distinguish yourself from the whole competition, right? And even sell those solutions further on. It would be like an additional revenue stream, for example. And number two is you need to be resilient. So this crisis shows that not many companies are resilient. You need to increase your ability to be flexible and to adapt quickly back to your operations. So digital technologies can help in that. And also like the resilient mindset, etc. These are all things, small things which can happen. For example, the digital technology can help you to predict those critical incidents, like in your supply chain, as I mentioned, for example. And also, like the last message would be, you need to make the first step. So especially SMEs, so they need to seek support from technology side. So approach technology providers, technology startups. approach just researchers, tell them what your problem is, and other similar potential buyers. Make a first step in your digitalization initiative. Reach also to us, like to perform. We are the perfect project. We are the perfect network right now for retailers. And as I said, the first step is very crucial because everything else will develop intuitively and will open up great opportunities actually for your business. So in that respect, go ahead, go digital.
Sure, Gültekin. Very good final lines. So I want to thank you very much for your insightful view on this. And thank you all for watching, and stay safe and healthy out there.